We're going to look at a brand new study that outlines the best diet for reducing visceral fat. This study was published in BMC, and it was one of the more intriguing studies because instead of looking at a control diet that was similar to a typical control diet where they looked at the standard American diet, these diets frequently said, let's look at this sloppy standard American diet and compare it to this beautiful diet. There is no denying that, but what this study did was compare 3 different diets. The first was a fairly clean, what they called a healthy guideline diet, which was actually not bad at all because it had more protein, decent vegetables, fruits, and other things. They compared that to a standard Mediterranean diet. So if you were to say, look up the Mediterranean diet and start doing it, or go to Europe and eat Mediterranean right, they would compare that to a third type of diet they called an optimized or polyphenol-rich Mediterranean diet. This was a Mediterranean diet that included a little bit more fruit, a little bit more tea, and a little bit more polyphenols. The reason for this was that the same research group that carried out the study we're discussing today had done a number of other studies that really found solid links between polyphenols and metabolic health, so they thought, well, let's take a look at just different diets and see what does better for weight loss and visceral fat. However, we must first examine the correlation. A study that was published in Nature Communications that examined visceral fat was the only type of fat on the human body that was linked to cardiac metabolic disease. Regular body fat, including subcutaneous fat, was not linked to cardiometabolic dysfunction. In actuality, just visceral fat, glue-feral fat, such as that found in the hips and other areas, was actually cardiometabolic protective. I'm not advocating gaining normal fat, which has its own set of drawbacks, but visceral fat is the only type that is clearly, alright, this is an issue. Let's now discuss the study's findings because this is where things start to get really interesting, and it sort of refutes some of the popular dietary myths. This stuff is more significant than omega-3s, which says a lot, so omega-3s are important, but fatty 15. The C15 fat is what gives our cells their structure and shields their membranes from oxidation, making them more resilient and preventing oxidation. This could potentially mitigate the effects of aging or oxidized cells, and you can see this almost instantly. They discovered that the group following the healthy eating guidelines did not lose any weight, which is something you should look into if you're wanting to improve your health. However, they ended up losing 4.2% of their visceral fat. What's interesting is that, although their weight remained unchanged, they lost fat in the visceral fat area, which is interesting in and of itself. The regular Mediterranean group saw fairly decent results, losing 2.7% of their body weight, and also seeing a 6% reduction in visceral fat, which is pretty damn awesome. The group that simply consumed more green tea and what they called duckweed also saw a decrease in visceral fat. Since duckweed is a very polyphenol-rich green, they simply added a shake with duckweed and 2 to 4 cups of green tea daily. This resulted in a 3.9% weight loss and a 14% reduction in visceral fat. When it comes to visceral fat, it's not just about calories. It's a good indicator of our metabolic health, so factors can affect visceral fat long before they affect our weight. Even just our weight. So what can we learn from this? I have a comprehensive protocol that we can follow, but first we need to examine the polyphenols and their origins. 2 polyphenols that appear to have the greatest influence are urolithin and hippuric acid. It's interesting to note that hippuric acid is typically found in forest berries. If you Google forest berries, you'll likely find items like blackberries, black currants, raspberries, wild strawberries, chokeberries, and so on. Typically, the darker berries are the ones that contain this acid. Any type of forest berry, including wild blueberries, is typically high in hippuric acid. We have discovered that higher amounts of this acid have been linked to greater visceral fat loss. Green tea is another product that is particularly high in hippuric acid. What if they increased the amount of green tea these people drank? The next one was urolithin A, which is usually found in pomegranates, some nuts, and different types of tea. It's a little more difficult to metabolize, but there is still a direct correlation. Other studies have shown that urolithin A can actually prevent people from gaining visceral fat when they eat a high-fat, high-calorie diet, so it has some cardiac metabolic protective measures there. However, we must ask ourselves whether these polyphenols are directly affecting our metabolism or visceral fat. That's where things get really interesting, and I hope you're still watching this video and paying attention. Join our diabetes health community and take control of your health with confidence. By hitting subscribe and like, you'll receive daily, easy-to-follow health solutions focused on blood sugar control, healthy habits, and long-term wellness. Stay informed, stay empowered, and move toward a healthier, more balanced life, one smart step at a time. Since this is where we make the connections and comprehend these concepts, and this is where I have a more formal process. Hippuric acid, in particular, is much more closely linked to gut health. Hippuric acid is a byproduct of the microbial metabolism of polyphenols, so if I were to eat a lot of fruit right now, I might get hippuric acid from those fruits, but I'm more likely to get hippuric as a postbiotic as a side effect of breaking down those polyphenols in my gut. Another thing we now know is that, according to a study published in Nutrients, polyphenols act as a prebiotic fiber, but they also protect against the growth of gram-negative or harmful bacteria in our guts. The longer time passes, the more I am, or should I say, the less I am convinced that the beneficial thing in fruit is the fiber, and it might be the polyphenols because they act as a prebiotic. However, they also serve as a kind of weapon to protect us from harmful bacteria. This is where it gets really interesting, though, because a study that looked at levels of hippurate and hippuric acid was published in Scientific Reports. The study found that these levels were associated with better gut health. So, we need to look at this. Do we have high levels of hippuric acid and urolithin A because we have a healthy gut, or are they proxies for good gut health? There is a very strong, extremely strong correlation between the microbiome and visceral fat, and only 2 bacterial strains are directly linked to BMI when it comes to the microbiome. There are 16 strains linked to visceral fat, which means that only 2 of the strains we look at are linked to people gaining weight or becoming larger. These are Futas and Bacteroids, or I believe that's how you say it. The other 16 strains in this category are directly linked to visceral fat, meaning that there is a stronger correlation between the gut and visceral fat than there is between the gut and body fat. Given that we know that gut health is important, it is possible that these polyphenols are particularly beneficial for the gut. Another point I must make is that the optimized Mediterranean diet did, in fact, lower some of their overall consumption of saturated fat. They did not, in fact, cut out a lot of foods. Rather, they reduced saturated fat. A fairly extensive study that was published in the journal Diabetes a while back discovered that visceral fat intake seemed to increase whenever saturated fat intake increased. However, for someone following a low-carb ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, I believe there are different metabolic mechanisms at work that probably absolve you of some of that. However, when you're eating a typical diet, it's very evident that when you start going up above 20% of your daily intake of fat from saturated fat, it starts to be metabolic crazy, which makes little sense when you choose somewhat thinner cuts. Consume roughly 1 gram of lean protein for every pound of lean body mass each day. Now, if you weigh 200 pounds and are rather lean, you can calculate that you can probably eat between 180 and 200 grams of protein. By lean protein, I don't mean to choose chicken breast. For example, it doesn't make sense to say, hey, we're only going to eat these fatty cuts because they taste good and because I can eat fats, no. No, it doesn't make sense to say, hey, we're going to eat whatever we'd like to eat. Sometimes we'd eat the breast, sometimes we'd eat the thigh, sometimes we'd get the juicy fatty cut. It was just luck of the draw most of the time, 2 cups of dark berries per day, which sounds like a lot of carbohydrates. You claim that you're forcing me to consume a lot of sugar, but that's not really the case. We're talking about maybe 40 grams of carbohydrates, 2 cups of strawberries, blackberries, and raspberries, or something similar, and 2 cups of green tea every day. You want the truth, that it works, that it spares muscle, that it helps you burn fat, that it oxidizes fat more quickly, that it contains a lot of polyphenols, which are linked to less visceral fat. The good news is that you can still benefit greatly from decaf green tea. Select some leafy greens with low oxalate content. In this instance, they were utilizing duckweed, a strange plant that I had heard of before, but was unaware that you could eat vegetables that are so high in polyphenols that you don't need a lot of them. It's primarily for the polyphenols. Aged cheeses don't have much fiber. There is another one with visceral fat that is strongly linked to taking breaks from food. If you take breaks from food, you have a higher chance of burning into some of that visceral fat. Take care of the gut, which means things like bone broth means things like the occasional colostrum, okay? If you can get like a colostrum supplement or a collagen supplement, it means trying to avoid emulsifiers. Eat some Parmesan, eat some Pano Romano, and so on. Try lowering things like polysorbate 20, 40, and 80. We don't. Or 20, 60, and 80. We don't really need those in their diet, and if you have a weakened stomach, they're not exactly helpful for the gut barrier. Adding 5 or 10 grams of glutamine per day, which is really beneficial for the stomach, and perhaps half a cup to 1 cup of fermented dairy per day, might not be a terrible idea if you work out frequently. If it's yogurt, keep it locked here on my channel, regardless of whether it's cottage cheese or something similar. I will see you tomorrow.